Hello, and thank you to everybody for joining our co-hosted webinar today, Cannabis Labeling, Gain Control from Seed to Sale, brought to you by TechLinks and Rethink Labeling. We appreciate you taking the time out of your Thursday to join us to talk about a topic that's very special to us. Before we get into our introductions, I would like to take care of a couple of housekeeping items. There will be polling questions in this webinar. They are pretty easy to participate in. You simply need to interact with the screen. The question as well as the answer options will pop up. I will share the results of the question and use it as a discussion point. It really helps guide what we talk about, so I kindly ask that you participate if you can. 2, feel free to ask questions throughout the presentation. You don't need to hold on to your question and wait till the end, because there will be a Q&A session at the end. You can ask as it pops into your head. That'll give our moderator a chance to respond immediately, as well as eliminating the chance of you forgetting it while you were waiting till the end. So there's a question window. You simply click on it, you type your question, you hit send, and you'll get an answer, and we will discuss them at the end. There are also some other resources in the webinar panel that I'd like to mention. One of them is the chat window. The chat window already has a really handy link out to our blog, The Human Readable in it. If you drill deeper into that blog, there is a actual one on how to create cannabis labels for on-demand printing, which is a topic we'll hit home today as well. And then there is also a handouts pane. The handouts pane has a couple of PDFs for you. One of them is an infographic and one of them is a cannabis labeling ebook. Both really handy resources that I recommend you take advantage of, and you can access them from the handouts pane there. Now, the last thing I want to mention is the survey. Upon exiting or at the end of the webinar, you will be asked to take a quick survey. That survey is a great spot for you to let us know how we did, suggest topics for future webinars, and most importantly, let us know how you'd like to be followed up with. Whether it's answering a specific question or gathering a certain subset of information that we presented, or if you want to share contact information of somebody we should call, the survey would be a great spot to do that. So let's dive into introductions here. So that is me, Nick Recht. That is a picture of me prior to the pandemic, though. I've spent a lot of time in my house growing my hair since then, so I'll share my camera in a minute and show you guys what you're dealing with. I have been with TechLinks for a bit over 11 years. In those 11 years, I've got to wear a lot of hats and learn a lot about not only the business, but the industry. And the legalization of cannabis has been a really interesting thing to be a part of because it is a brand new product that has its own subset of labeling regulations with it. And it's always exciting to see something new. My passion is using technology to help people solve business problems. I think more often than not, or not more often than not, but more often than we would like, technology is actually kind of the bane of some companies' existence. And when you leverage it properly, it can really be something used to help solve problems, not create them. So I'm going to go ahead and share my webcam for a second. So you can see that this presentation is being brought to you live from my basement. You can see I have quite a bit of sports memorabilia behind me, and I have the long flowing locks that I started growing a little bit prior to Wisconsin going on our safer at home order here. But if everything goes as planned, I should be back to work in less than a couple of weeks here. So it's funny doing a webinar on cannabis, though, brought from my basement, because if somebody would have told the Nick Recht from 2004 that he'd be hanging out in his basement talking about cannabis for most of 2020, they probably wouldn't have been too surprised, actually. So let's talk a little bit about TechLinks. TechLinks is the global leader in barcoding and RFID software. We've been in business for a bit over 30 years. And we have a global presence with a really, really large footprint due to the fact that we have product offerings for every size business. Whether you're a small mom and pop sandwich shop or one of the world's largest medical device manufacturers, you'll likely have a product from TechLinks installed, playing a part of your label printing process. We work around the clock to help all these organizations barcode better. You have quite a few options out there when you decide to pick a barcoding and label making software, and we pride ourselves on exploiting the features of our product to do things better than the rest. And we're really enabled to do that by staffing the best possible people to make our products work better for you. So I'm going to pass the mic over here to John Trail from Rethink Labeling to introduce himself and Rethink. So take it away, John.
Thanks, Nick. And first, I just want to thank everyone for joining us today and appreciate you taking the time. And thanks to Nick and TechLinks for our partnership and working together. So my name is John Trail. I've been in the labeling industry for a few years, 34 to be exact. So I've have a breadth of experience and always look forward to sharing and helping with sharing of that whenever I can. I'm always intrigued with looking for better ways to do things, whether it's related to people or for business and process. That's just part of who I am. And I'm also blessed with a full life and family. I have a wife, Amy, 3 daughters, April, Autumn, and Annie. And I happen to own a 67 Chevelle convertible. So just a little bit about me. So let me talk a little bit about Rethink Labeling, division of Labeltronics. So we've been in business for 27 years. We are a label manufacturer. We are also a premier partner for both Epson and Zebra Technologies. We have, over the many years, we have quite a breadth of experience. We've sold and installed over 10,000 label printers and systems. And through that time, we've learned and understand how to provide a on-demand printing system. Our goals are really keeping it simple. The one call is what we do for our customers to make it simple, reliable, make a system work for our customers. One of the common themes for us is helping our customers with the challenges, and they always want to. We look for ways to help you gain control and increase flexibility with your labeling, because we know labeling has a lot of challenges with it, but there is a lot of solutions, and we're here to help our customers with that. So looking forward to helping you today.
Well, thank you very, very much, John. So now that we got the housekeeping and the introductions out of the way, let's dive into some actual content. So today we are here to talk about cannabis labeling. We're going to start by talking about some of the common cannabis labeling challenges that are experienced, and then we want to share with you some information on how to overcome them, as well as some best practices. We're really going to focus in on how to leverage efficiency with the management of artwork and kind of integration with variable data to bring things in-house and on demand. We're going to help by sharing information on how to identify the right hardwares and materials so you can maximize the return on the investment of bringing the labeling in-house. As we know, many times today, it is completely outsourced. We're going to spend a couple of minutes doing a live demonstration of what on-demand label printing can look like within your business. And then we're going to kind of peel back into the designer a little more to give you a sneak peek of what some of the integration into the data may look like. And then we're going to wrap things up with a question and answer session at the end. So please pop those questions in as soon as they hit you. So upon registering for this webinar, we asked our attendees today, what are some of the common cannabis labeling challenges that you see? And what you guys told us were that, seed to sale traceability was a big challenge. And I'd say labeling is certainly something that can help with that traceability. Labeling compliance requirements. This is one that certainly hits close to home for me, as we're based here out of Wisconsin, and we work with companies all over the nation that are trying to do business in potentially multiple states and are faced with the fact that these labeling compliance requirements change from state to state. Where Canada has legalized federally, so they have one rule to follow. The US has very many rules to follow. Frequent label changes. This is one that often hits home to companies that are outsourcing their labeling. And if an ingredient changes or a test result changes, they might need to waste the media they have that they pre-printed or do some over labeling on it, which is never too pretty. So traditionally, barcoding has really all been done on black and white thermal transfer printers. And nowadays, with some of the introductions from companies like Epson and some of the expertise from companies like Rethink Labeling and TechLinks, you can really incorporate branding and full color, high quality graphics on the labels that you print within your four walls. And trying to do that without the help of an expert can often be a great challenge. So I wasn't surprised to hear that. Label printing lead time. I think this prints directly, or this speaks directly to the people outsourcing their labels. Cannabis systems integration. This is one that that we've been working to make easier and easier, and are certainly learning more and more. But often the critical data for your cannabis products are stored in a cannabis-related ERP system, or you have some track and trace information in Metric or BioTrack, and you want to be able to leverage that on the label. And that requires a certain level of integration in which TechLinks is prepared to help you with. And then the last one is hardware and materials. It's always nice to be able to talk to somebody like a John Trail or a different representative from Rethink Labeling to take you through that process. And we'll share a bit of information with you today on the procedure we do there. So what does your process likely look like today? I can speak to a lot of experience for companies using our product. So when I get the pleasure of working with a cannabis grower, processor, or distributor or dispensary, often their process looks a little bit something like this. They might want to use our product because they're using the limited barcoding functions from Metric or BioTrack or a different system, depending on where they're located. They likely might design a label in a graphic design software and end up with many different static designs. If you produce, 20 different strains and some of those strains are being sold in different sizes, you might manage a label for each one of those, which can really become a management nightmare by managing them all in like InDesign or Illustrator. I've seen very often companies generate 1D or 2D barcodes from a generator, like on a website or something, and then use that image to put in their graphic design software, which is kind of a pain in the butt, as if you do things right, you can leverage a product like TechLinks CodeSoft to do both of those at the same time. Now, I have seen people try to recreate these high-res, high-quality graphical files in their barcoding and label making software, which we wouldn't recommend. We'd recommend creating the artwork in an artwork solution, but leveraging that artwork in a label design product to bring in that variable data and that integration. We also see a lot of people completely outsource their design. And with that, when label changes are needed, it's a struggle to update the label data and the barcodes and really bring in the new information. And as I had mentioned before, you might be experiencing a bit of waste with your current inventory. So that's what I'm able to see with companies that are already seeking out. But I think John has a little bit more experience and a different view on it. So I'm going to pass the mic back to him for him to share his experience about how people are doing labeling today.
So great. So now I wanted to just kind of keep it simple and break down the three different ways that we see companies that source labels today. So number one would be, and many of you are probably doing this, and it makes sense, is to have your labels made by a label printing company. So you would just order your labels and get them pre-printed, and then you apply those to your product. Very common. The second way of getting labels printed is what we call is a hybrid, or the best of both worlds. So the example I'm showing you is where the label would be pre-printed with a blank space or a portion of the label left blank. Then it would run through a label printer. In this example, we're showing the Epson printer. And then you have the completed label. So that portion allows you to print the variable information or information that you don't know until point of application or last stage. But yet you get the benefits of pre-printed capabilities, knowing that branding and your imaging is very important. And the third one, that is the continued possibilities, is the on-demand printing, where you're starting with a blank label. So your labels are on a roll, they're blank, they go through the printer, and then the output is the entire label. And with Epson's technology and how things have advanced, you're going to see some pretty amazing quality of high-end digital printing, not only for the graphics, but also for your data and barcode, etc. So those are the three common ways. Many companies do all three, and some do just one or the other.
Great information, John. I think that's a lot crisper and cleaner than what I see, as I'm seeing people a little bit more in the weeds on one side of it. So let's talk about some of the best practices for really the focus of today, which is on-demand labeling, bringing that labeling in-house, going from a blank label to a fully printed, fully colorful, beautiful label like you saw in the picture on the previous slide. So best practice number one is really just bring it in-house and print it on demand. There's no reason to pre-print rolls days, weeks, or months before you need to actually apply it to the product, due to the fact that the speed in which the printers work nowadays and the rapid pace in which some of that data can change. It makes sense to print it as close to being applied to the product as it possibly can. Best practice number two is integrate with your seed to sale system, or really whatever business system holds the data you need on those labels. That can be done in a couple different ways. Today in the demonstration, we're really going to focus on a database connection, but rest assured that we can connect with cloud sources of the data as well. And then number three here is, when you are doing things in-house and doing them on demand, and you're integrated with your seed to sale system, you really want to leverage the concept of label templates or smart labels, where they're pulling in variable data from that business system, eliminating the need for anybody to type anything in manually at the time of print. The more finger clicks you have in a process, the more likely there is to be an error within that process. And then number four is really just leveraging your high resolution artwork in your labels there. So I'm sorry, I got a little lost. So number four is leveraging the high resolution artwork within your labeling software. So we're not suggesting using a product like CodeSoft to necessarily design those high quality, high resolution artwork. There's still a role that Illustrator or InDesign plays, but those can be leveraged in your label designer to maximize efficiency within that solution. So what I want to do now is pass the mic back over to John for him to discuss some of the things you'll need to take into consideration when bringing this process in-house.
So I want to just spend a few minutes here to talk about some of the aspects of an on-demand printing system. So obviously there's a printer required, And the good news is you have quite the choice today with technology and the advancement. Some of the questions that we would typically ask, and so I think these questions are things you want to keep in mind as you either expand your on-demand or look at on-demand. But what type of printing are you going to do? Are you doing full color? Do you do a lot of graphics? Do you do a lot of small text or different designs? There's a couple different technologies on the screen now. We're showing you two of the most common, and these are the leading brands in the industry for on-demand labeling. So one is Zebra technology. It's the more conventional. It's been around for many years. It's typically a one-color black printing where it's most commonly just a barcode or text. And then we have the Epson portfolio of products today that are very high quality, high resolution, full color. So picking the right printer, the sizes of your labels, the volume, it's very common to do a single printer or two. And then we have other clients that have dozens of printers doing high volume production across multiple locations. So picking the printer is a key aspect. Once we're also looking at the printer, then there's a lot of questions to be asked about the labeling that you're actually doing. So questions related to how are you applying the label and what are the products you're applying to? So is it a small vial that's glass or plastic? Is there a taper? Is it a pouch? Some of these common questions are very important for a labeling partner to be asking to make sure that your right material and application is being understood. Another question that we always ask is how are you applying your labels and where are you applying the labels? Are you doing it yourself? Are you applying by hand? Is this on an automatic applicator? We have solutions to all the above, but it's always the smartest thing is to get all these good questions answered up front. So as your system is selected and recommended, then you know it's going to work and be simple to use and work well. So in addition to the printer and the application, we're talking today all about the label. So you're looking at the software, you're looking at the system because you need a label. So the other questions that we ask is what type of material do you need? We range from paper to synthetics. We have matte, we have high gloss, we have satin, and then we have a range of adhesives that are permanent or removable. So there's a various array of questions that are very important to ask, but asking the right questions, getting the good answers, help ensure that you have a very successful printing system, and that's what we do every day. That's good information to know as you move forward, and it's pretty straightforward as long as you know what you're doing. So hopefully that's some useful tips. So back to you, Nick.
Sorry, a little mismanagement of my mute button there. I was going to say, this is really great information, and it speaks to the value of the partnership between companies like Rethink and a company like TechLinks, where TechLinks is strictly on the software side for the designing and the printing. In order to bring it in-house, there's really a whole lot more that needs to happen on the selection of printers and media to optimize it for the application in which you're using it. So the second best practice, outside of the first one being just really bring it in-house, do it on demand. Second one is integrate with the business system. So in the experience that we've had today, the two most common seed to sale systems that we're integrating with are Metric and BioTrack. We've done a little bit of work with MJ Freeway and a handful of other ones out there, but it's really just integrating with those systems. And the word integration, has many different meanings, and it often means something different to the person saying it or asking about it in a question. But what we've found here is that when we're talking about integration, at the stage that the cannabis industry is in nowadays, it's really just leveraging the data from that system to be a source of truth for the label. And that's something that we can do pretty easily by something as simple as a database connection or a call to a resting waiting system to give us that data. Now, when it comes to seed to sale system integration, just like other industries out there, as it grows more and more mature, the systems will start to offer more and more flexibility, and we'll be able to talk about integration on the side of like being able to print directly out of those systems like Metric, BioTrack, or a point of sale system for your dispensary. So best practice number 3 is the idea of leveraging templates. So when we talk about templates, we're really talking about one label where the data can change. If you, for example, put your you made gummies of your product, and you had indica varieties, sativa varieties, and hybrid varieties, and in those varieties, you had many different strains that you'd like to highlight, or different flavors. Each one of them had a list of different ingredients and different potencies and different test results based on the day and the batch of the oil and whatnot. Rather than manage to a template for every one of those, you can actually manage to one template that pulls in the data based on the product in which you're printing. This is really great because it leverages that one source of the truth. It removes any manual data entry processes from this procedure, reducing errors and costs. And when it comes to having to make a label change, it can really make it something that happens quickly, as a label change can be reflected simply by an update in the data, or better yet, you can update one template that will update all of your products. So I'm going to pass the mic back over to John to discuss best practice number 4, which is leveraging the high-res artwork in your software.
So I just wanted to touch bases. It's been mentioned already by Nick, but the artwork aspect of your label. So you're looking at 3 different labels, and the first one, the green one, is showing you the entire label was created in Adobe Illustrator, as an example. So you're always going to do your graphic design in graphic design programs such as Illustrator, and then once you have that graphic file designed, then you would bring it into CodeSoft as a high resolution PDF or PNG. And this is where the second one is showing you the brown, gold, orange label is brought in as a graphic file, and then the last panel is blank, allowing CodeSoft to incorporate the barcode, whether it's 1D barcode or 2D. So this is a combination of the high-end graphic design aspect with your compliance. And the last version is more of the same. So not only the barcode, but a lot of your variable information. So this is doing this type of combination of importing graphics into the labeling program that provides you the barcoding, the database integration. We've seen this for many years, and really this is where you're maximizing the on-demand, high quality experience, so that you can now print one label, you can print 10,000 labels, and you have a lot of flexibility without sacrificing quality. So it's how you do it right, and again, bringing the graphic design into the labeling software, combining not only your branding but with compliance is really the goal.
Great. So let's take a look at what that might look like in action. So give me just a moment to switch over to our live demonstration. So what I want to take you through in this live demonstration today is 2 things, or really 2 sides of things. I want to start by showing you what the end user experience can look like for somebody who wants to print full color, high res images on demand. And then I want to peel back a little bit and kind of talk about that integration and how the label is created. So when it comes to printing the labels, you can do it in a few different ways. The way that I recommend is leveraging something easy, straightforward, and streamlined, like leveraging ClickPrint. So you can see here, you can have, in this case, I have 2 examples, but you could have quite a few to pick from. You could pick your sativa, your hybrid, so on and so forth. In the example I have on the right here, this is asking me for a form variable for harvest date where I'd manually key it in. From there, I could expand the preview, and you can see that the harvest date in which I keyed in appears on the label. If I harvested this 2 years in the future and went to the preview, you can see that's reflected on the label there. Now, this is an example where the only thing I'm entering is the harvest date. So I would need to manage to a template for anything that required a different background image. The label here is one that I really like to show off because it's really exploiting a lot of the features of CodeSoft. So you'll notice here that as I change the ID, all of the information on the label changes. Not only the THC content, the CBD content, the harvest date and pack date, but also the background image entirely. So we're able to manage one template simply by entering an ID or a SKU or whatever it might be within your business. Have it pull all that information into the label, including the high-res background image, to streamline the printing. And I can tell you, when somebody needs to print a label, simply by typing in an identifier or even picking your strain from a list here, it really streamlines that process for you, reducing those errors. So not to get overly technical, but I do want to talk a little bit about what this integration looks like, as I know that's a really hot topic for a lot of the cannabis companies that we've worked with to date. So I have a little bit of sample data here. This is sample data that might exist in a metric or a BioTrack or your product lifecycle management system or your ERP system or whatever it may be. In this case, it has style, name, data for the linear barcode, data for the QR code, which in this case takes you to a website that actually has the testing results for that product, the THC results, the CBD results, harvest date, pack date, batch. So this is the information that you are seeing change on this label. Style, loading the background image, and then the rest of the information really pulled in as variables. And when we talk about creating this integration, it's really as easy as creating the ID field, that's the key, and leveraging a database connection into that data source to drive the rest of the information. So here's a sneak peek of it within the designer. So really that's kind of how it plays, and that's what the integration looks like. CodeSoft is also really great at handling things like serialization. So if you're, pride yourself on small batch sizes where you test each one, so on and so forth, you can provide a batch ID with it so that people know if they've been buying your product a lot, the highest number they've ever seen is 75. So it's really is respecting the small batch side of it. And then the last thing I want to mention is our native integration with these Epson printers. The Epson printers are really great at printing high-speed color on demand. And Epson was kind enough to create a printer that accepts a printer language rather than needing to communicate too graphically. And we support all of the ColorWorks models that have this language available. So not only the 7500, but the 7500G and GE for the synthetic and high gloss medias, and then the new 6500 lines, which not only has a lower price point, but is meant for smaller batches of printing rather than large runs. So that concludes the demonstration. Give me a moment to dive back into the PowerPoint. And of course, you didn't see anything print, right? I don't have a Epson printer in my basement here, and if I did, it would be pretty hard to make my tiny webcam point at it. So what we want to do now is share our first polling question, which is, would you like to receive a printed sample pack? And I'm going to pass the mic over to John to really discuss what's in that. But please participate in your answer.
Yeah, great. So this is an opportunity for you to have us send you actually printed samples of what you're seeing today. So if you just give us your information, we're more than happy and would love to send you some real labels printed off of the Epson printer, the same files that you're seeing today on a couple different of our most popular materials. So you have some real information and some actual labels to touch and feel and kind of tie this all together. So I'll go back to you, Nick, on that one. I think we're good.
Yep, another mismanagement of the mute button there. I'm used to having my button to push. So I'm going to keep the poll open for about another 10 to 15 seconds just to give everybody a chance to answer. But if you'd like to receive these label samples, just say yes, and we'll circle back with you to talk about the best address to send those out to you to, and maybe even get a little bit of more information about the scenario. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and close this poll. I'll share the results just because I said I would, but we have about 56% of the people in attendance who said they wanted it. So thanks for participating. We'll certainly be diligent on the follow-up with you. So one thing that I know often instills confidence in partnering with companies like TechLinks and Rethink, as well as something I seek out when I'm looking for something new, both personally and professionally, is kind of stories of success. And TechLinks has a success story with a large cannabis organization, publicly traded, headquartered in Illinois. They're actually involved with every stage of the process. They grow, they process, and they have multiple different dispensaries, and they're leveraging CodeSoft to be able to do the design and printing from the entire seed to sale process. They integrate CodeSoft with both BioTrack and Metric, and they have stated that with this integration, they've significantly reduced the amount of time it takes to design, update, and print, as well as the previous errors that were associated with it. Now, this company also is growing rapidly, and they wanted to make sure they were laying the best groundwork for a successful future, because they have a anticipation of business growing, where they're going to want to be able to do some on-demand printing directly out of their business system, maybe at their dispensaries or at some of the growing facilities and whatnot. And so I want to use that to say they laid the groundwork for integrating with our enterprise level solutions at a later date. We have 3 enterprise level solutions that I really just want to talk to you about. First one is Sentinel. It's an automated label printing solution. It would allow you to print out of a business system. So for example, if you have a cannabis ERP system and you release the order for the batch of edibles you're making, it can automatically trigger the printing of those labels for you. Number 2 is a product called Label Archive. It's a security and traceability suite for your label templates, and it allows you to route them through approval, keep a history of everything that has happened, and also only let certain people do certain things within the system. And then our last product is one called TechLink Central. It combines all of the capabilities that you saw with CodeSoft, Sentinel, and Label Archive, makes it one solution, so it's easier for a larger business to understand, as it's kind of your enterprise label management suite that can do everything you do today, plus need to do in the future. And it puts with it the ability to print out of a browser-based printing interface from anywhere to anywhere. So you could manage the design at your headquarters and enable the printing of those designs at every one of your dispensaries or every one of your growing facilities or every one of your processing facilities. So we have shared quite a bit of information with you so far, and now we want to launch our second poll. So this polling question is, which labeling strategy I'm clicking launch. So now you should be able to see it. So which labeling strategy to gain greater control and flexibility is the best fit for your business? So is it really just bringing them in-house? Right now you might be outsourcing it and you want to bring it in-house, do it on demand. Or is it to integrate the labels with your seed to sale system? Or is it option number 3, use label templates with artwork and variable data? Or is the labeling strategy to gain greater control and flexibility the best fit for your business to potentially explore some of the enterprise offerings that I introduced there a second ago? So please contribute with your response. We've had the poll open for about 45 seconds. I'll keep it open for about 90. So take a second, read the question over, participate with your answer, and then we'll discuss that in just a moment. All right, the percent voted is still rising rapidly, so I'm not going to close it yet. I'll give you guys about another 10 seconds. All right, last chance. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, last chance. Perfect. So we had a pretty good amount of the audience vote. Let's go ahead and share these results. So not to my surprise, the most popular answer is really just design and print labels in-house and on demand. The cannabis industry, for all intents and purposes, is still a very, very young industry. And I think that really speaks to why there was initially so much outsourcing. Your expertise certainly isn't designing and printing labels, nor should it be. Your expertise is running a growing facility, processing facility, or distribution facility, or all aspects of it. And you can lean on companies like TechLinks and Rethink to enable you guys to be able to do that in-house in the most efficient manner possible. Now the second one, second most popular, is using label templates, which, you know, if you're going to bring it in-house, you might as well bring it in-house right. So I think those two are definitely correlated. So thank you for participating with your answer. We appreciate the information, and I think your fellow answerers appreciate it as well, as they know they're not alone, or they know they might be a little unique. I was actually surprised to see such a low percentage in the integrating the labeling with the seed to sale system, but maybe that's just assumed. All right, so we've discussed quite a few things today. I just want to take a moment to kind of put a pretty bow on it. So when it comes to gaining control and flexibility of labeling, we have a couple of recommendations for you, and they kind of tie back into the best practices. We recommend leveraging a robust barcoding and labeling software to print all your labels in-house on demand, integrating with not only your cannabis software system like Metric or BioTrack, but also pulling in those high-res graphics to print accurate labels on demand. The technology, both on the hardware and the software side, is there and ready to meet your needs. And it can ultimately save you a bit of money, especially if you're experiencing waste media due to needing label changes, so on and so forth. And then obviously, as your needs evolve, you can leverage the enterprise offerings that we talked about to make it so that instead of labeling having to be a action that somebody takes, it can simply be a result of an action within a business system. So what do we do now? You know, how do we get started? There's a couple things you can do. One, feel free to download a free trial of CodeSoft from our website. I am certainly somebody who likes to touch and feel things, but I also want to talk to somebody. So I would go ahead and download the trial of CodeSoft and then give the friendly folks at TechLinks a call to get help designing my first label. 2 is request a virtual demo of your label printed on the Epson ColorWorks printer. This is a really awesome offering that Rethink does. And John, feel free to correct me if you want to add anything, but you really have a discussion with them. They send you some artwork and you can get samples of your actual artwork printed on the devices from them. And then number 3 is let us chat with you. We have a surplus of labeling experts ready to discuss with you what might be the best fit solution. As every manager who's ever managed says, you don't know what you don't know. So make sure to reach out to the resources that you have available. So before we get into the Q&A, is there anything you'd like to add, John?
No, I think you've done a good job, and I think it's pretty straightforward. And yeah, we're more than willing and able to help with a demonstration, and that's definitely a possible next step.
Great. And one thing I did forget to mention, in the chat window, we've chatted out some resources throughout the presentation, but we just chatted one out to make a request to get in touch, as well as both from TechLinks and Rethink, and we have a link to the CodeSoft trial as well. So they're handy links there for you. So give us a minute to digest the questions here. I promise it won't take long. I just need to move things around, and with my mismanagement of the mute button, I want to be extra careful to make sure I don't screw this up. So the first comment we have is one for you, John, and it's just somebody saying how they'd love to take a ride in your Chevelle, and they have a 63 MGB. So
Oh,
got
nice.
some out there.
Another car guy.
Yeah. All right, so I think this is one that we can both address, John, but the question is, which Epson color printers do you have experience with? So I'll start with the TechLinks side. So in my personal experience at TechLinks, I've had the most experience with 3 models. The C3400 and 3500, which were kind of a little, they're still very popular, but they were prior to Epson releasing a printer that accepted a command language. I have a lot of experience with the C7500, which is, it's a pretty big device, and it's geared towards large runs, but it prints very, very fast and does a really great job. And then the you can correct me, John, it's the 6000 or the 6500 series are the newest ones that provide like a peel and apply and a cutter. And we have pretty good experience with all 3 of those models to point.
Yeah, and I'll just complement that with saying we have experience with all the Epson label printers, the ones you mentioned, a number of years. The technology is amazing. The precision core, maintenance-free, high resolution, the latest generation printers that have come out this year. We've got quite a few now in the field. We have technical support. We have a lot of expertise. So we're very experienced with Epson. We love Epson product, and we're here to help you pick the right printer for your needs.
Great. So this next question is one I can handle. Will you have a link to the recording of this webinar? Yes, we absolutely will. I believe we send it out to everybody who attended and everybody who registered. I might be wrong, so don't hold me to that. But we do have it recorded, so you can definitely get a copy of it. And then that question had a follow-up because we answered it with a mediator. They said, thanks, they're distributing in multiple states, and they wanted to know how simple it is to update their labels, because as regulations are changing all the time, they want to make this process easy. And I think if you lay, a really great foundation for what you're doing in-house on demand, those labeling changes and the ability to rapidly respond becomes easier and easier. And it's really just a matter of, creating smart templates that take into account external graphical images, and then updates can happen as easy as updating data. All right. This is one that I think I need you to address, John, but it is, how is the Epson 6500 better than the older models?
Uh, so that's a great question. So the 7500 is the most recent predecessor. So the new series, the new series of printers have two model numbers. 6000 is the 4-inch printer, 6500 is the 8-inch printer. Basically, they're the same printer. The only difference is the width, the maximum width of the printer. As far as technology, it's precision core, so it's still maintenance free. It's the high resolution. We're up to 1200 DPI is possible now with the newest Epson printers. They have a peel and dispense version, which is the first time ever for on-demand color, where the label you print will actually peel. So you can hand apply, or integrating that with an applicator is a big capability now that's never been available. So it's what Epson has done is taken a lot of the feedback and just put higher resolution, easier to use, more flexible on your label sizes, offering a wider platform if you need that, all at a much lower cost price point. So it's pretty incredible. It's the product offering itself is really the only sacrifice I would say that was made was the print speed. So the newest printers don't print quite as fast as the 7500, but everything else is either equal or better from a quality and material handling standpoint. And you know, we have a lot of clients now that instead of having one printer or two, are deploying multiple printers to expand their operation because of that.
Thank you. All right, here's one that is for me. Why would a cannabis grower or retailer use TechLinks versus the label capabilities built into Metric? So I got some pretty direct feedback from one of the companies I worked with, and it really came down to the fact that the capabilities built into Metric weren't robust enough. It was really just printing a singular 1D or 2D barcode, and they wanted to incorporate some additional data besides just the barcode. And then after we talked to them about, you know, full color on demand, they said, oh, it would be great if I could do full color on demand incorporating this, so that they didn't need to print a package label and then put an additional item over it. Oh, well, we got a few people asking for Rething's contact information in here, so that's a good one for you, John. Not necessarily a question. How can TechLink software integrate with Metric? So we've integrated with Metric a few times now, and we do it in we've done it in two ways. One way, there was a local SQL database, and the integration happened simply by a database connection, and we've also leveraged a script to make a call out to a RESTful API to get the data. So we'll really play nicely however we can. All right, so we have somebody asking if they can source the printers at Blue Star or other distributors. I don't know the answer to that, but I certainly would not recommend it. When it comes to a device like this, you really need to work with an expert who can kind of help set up a whole system. I'd say it is plug and play with quite a few headaches. Is there anything you'd like to add there, John?
No, I think your comment is appropriate. I think the piece of that you need to be mindful of is the label. In other words, the printer is a component, just like the software. So the way you're going to have success is integrating the right software, the right printer, the right label, material, adhesive, and then having somebody that knows what they're doing kind of make it all work for you. So I wouldn't underestimate the need for experience and understanding, especially when it comes to labels and labeling product and adhesive, it is a sticky business. So.
Yeah. Ha, I like that. And based on my memory from my glory days, the cannabis can be a sticky business as well. Shout out to Snoop Dogg there. All right. So we have one question here. Can you talk more about RFID capabilities? So CodeSoft fully supports RFID encoding on demand. And there's actually, I can't remember the name, but a company made an add-on for the 7500 that allows it to encode RFID tags. So if that's something you're interested in doing, we can likely play a part in it, but we'll maybe have to bring in more experts on the RFID side, but we can certainly do that. All right, I see one last question here, and then we'll get everybody on their way. Thanks to everybody who stuck around, which is a pretty good chunk of the audience today. So do companies use both metric and BioTrack within an organization? And what are the advantages between the two, and do they work together? That is a really great question because I had it myself. And it really comes down more to the state in which the company operates in. The systems are licensed and then required to be used if you're in that state. So companies that are growing rapidly and trying to do business on the East Coast and the West Coast likely need to do both of those systems. I don't believe they work together, but I could certainly be wrong. So with that, I just want to give everybody one final thank you. This is both John and my contact information. Feel free to shoot us an email, shoot us a phone call, or check us out on the website, or just let us know you'd like us to reach out to you within the survey, and we will, or a member of our team will. We appreciate you attending today, and we'd really like it if you could take the survey upon exiting here or in a minute when we end the webinar. And in the meantime, let's all remember to barcode better together. Thank you all and have a very, very good day.
Thank you.